Hello, I'm K.D. Hale, Vice President of the Association of African American Cultural Gardens, and I have the honor of welcoming you, our audience, to our Sankofa Web Series. Our goal is to educate regarding the African American experience through this series. We will be interviewing some of the most interesting, engaging leaders, business leaders, and great entrepreneurs in this great city. These change agents will tell us about their journey, who they are, who inspired them, what they do, and what does African American history and African American cultural gardens mean to them. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page, the Association of African American Cultural Gardens. And go to our website, AAACG.org, for most updated information regarding events in our Sankofa series, which can also be viewed on demand. We will be breaking ground for the final phase of building the African American Garden this year, and we are excited. But in the meantime, please enjoy this episode of the Sankofa series brought to you by the Association of African American Cultural Gardens. Thank you.
Hi, I am Val B. King, granddaughter of legendary King of the Blues, B.B. King. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Welcome to another episode of the Sankofa series, where we educate you not only on African American culture and the experience, but also the importance of the African American cultural gardens. We also uplift the achievements and the work that many of our city leaders are doing right here in Northeast Ohio. I'm joined here by the man of God himself, Reverend Dr. E.T. Caviness, the pastor of Greater Abyssinia Church here in Cleveland. Thank you for joining us, Pastor.
Thank you.
So I'm going to jump right into it. So many people know, if you know Cleveland, you know the work that you have done here in Cleveland. You have served in many capacities. For people who may not know, talk to me about the work you've done and the work you're doing still today.
Well, I kind of came from an humble background in Marshall, Texas. That's about 120 miles out of Dallas, Texas, and in the environs of Texas. And so I started out as very humble beginnings. And during my experiences in that little town of Marshall, Texas, of 25,000 people, I had an occasion to go to the jail. My brother and I would kind of get some kindling wood to kind of make some fire, and somehow or another somebody called the police and said that these guys are stealing. And so the police came out and took us to jail. And my mother came down to the jail and told us that these fellas have not done anything. But anyway, in that particular experience, coming out of that building, I saw a caricature on the wall that had a bar between white people and black people. There was an eternal separation, and that was the etch in our minds that black folk were supposed to be separated from white people, and that aegis of separate or equal was never separate. Everything was separate, was always unequal. So I saw that on the wall. It had division amongst people because of the color of their skin, not the content of their character, but the color of their skin. And simply because whites were on one side and blacks were on another, I indelibly impacted in my mind that I need to be a part and a parcel of trying to do something about that. And so throughout the totality of my life, I've striven to try to bring people together and to not separate them. And I think I got good motivation from Martin King because he and I are born about the same time. I'm really 6 months older than he. I'm 93 at this time. He would have been about that once his a little prior too. But that gave me inspiration to, in dealing with Dr. King and corroborating what he did and what he stood for in terms of trying to make sure that people in agape love would be brought together instead of being separated. That became the modus operandi of what I've striven to do down through the years. And so I started out in Marshall, Texas, had a couple of years in West Texas at St. Mark Baptist Church, left there, and graduated from Bishop College in HBC school. Bishop College was indelibly impacting all of the surroundings of our area, and to be able, in Marshall, of humble beginning, to be able to go to that school gave me the inspiration, and seeing that in Marshall then started me to thinking about what can I do? How can I make an impact on people as I move around the world? And so in coming to Cleveland after leaving St. Mark and having a little stint in Texarkana, Arkansas, I moved to Eden Theological Seminary, where I got the Bachelor of Divinity degree and a Master's degree. And so I was able to, at that time, pastor a little church in Madison, Illinois. So I did that for 6.5 years, and then I left Madison, Illinois, and went to East St. Louis, Illinois. And I spent about 6.5 years there. And in July of '61, I had the opportunity to come to Cleveland. So I've been here in Cleveland for 60 years at the great Abyssinia Baptist Church.
Wow, and I know you have, you served under many administrations here in the city of Cleveland as well. Mayor Stokes, talk to me about that.
I came here, I think it was, Celebrezze was the mayor at the time. And then Celebrezze left to go to the Kennedy cabinet. Then I think Ralph Loca took his place. It was at that time that we were going through a lot of upheaval here, and actually black people were really not involved in the fabric of what was happening in the city. We only had one African American of prestigious kind of position at City Hall, and that was Mr. Bert Gardner, who was head of the YMC at the time. And Bert was the only one. We didn't have any kind of inclusion or diversity at City Hall. And so during this time that Carl Stokes came along, we were trying to get some dialogue and discussion with the mayor. And we sent a delegation down to the mayor's office and asked him if he would just talk to us so that we could provide some kind of opportunity for improvement and inclusion and the like. And instead of dialoguing with that committee that we sent down there, he had the police to escort them out. And we were infuriated that here we are excluded, not being a part of the fabric of this city, and he had the audacity and the nerve to put the police on us. So we were all uptight, and Carl Stokes came along. Carl Burton Stokes came along. Carl said, don't get mad, get even, get smart. And I think that was so relevant at the time. It was so provocative at the time, because when you fast forward and you see Obama was telling people, don't get mad, don't be angry, vote. That was the significant thing. So Carl got that into our mind that we should prepare ourselves to not only become a part of the discussion, but to create the discussion. And so from that, Carl Stokes and Dr. Kenneth Clemmer began to move things around. And in '65, we strove for the mayorship. We missed it by 3,000 votes, and we did not give up. We came back in 1967, and we won the mayor's chair, the first African-American mayor of a major metropolitan city with only 33% of the population. Subsequent to that, Carl Stokes went around the country trying to tell black people that you don't have to stay in the back. You can become a part of this discussion. You can sit at the table. He advised Mayor Bradley of Los Angeles. He advised the mayor of Atlanta to do the things that he did. In fact, Bradley out in California did not act as Carl told him the first time, and he lost. When he replicated what Carl did, he finally won it. And so around the country, Carl became the catalyst for inspiring people to go forward and to get the job done. And we were able to, in 1967, I say with 33% of the population, to elect the first African-American mayor of a major metropolitan city, and we were dancing in the streets, dancing in the streets. So that has become the pattern by which and through which we say that if you are not a part of the discussion, don't give up. Stay in there, fight. The struggle continues. You have to understand that racism is very much well. It's well and going well. But if we are energetic, if we are prepared to stay the course, if we are prepared to stay there and not allow things to overwhelm us, then we can make a difference. And I have striven as a person to try to make that difference throughout the totality of my life.
Yeah, and when we talk about Black history, you have really been embedded in Black history here in the city of Cleveland. You served under the first Black mayor. Fast forward to now 2022, and we have another Black mayor in his early 30s, a very young Black mayor. How does that feel to see this continued here in the city?
It's so important. It's so important. In fact, we were in this last campaign with Mayor Bill. That was on page 252 of Carl Stokes' book, Promises of Power. He says, in essence, I've striven to do what I can do. I've done all that I can do, and I've worked hard to get it done. And whatever is left, I'm going to leave it to the future of some African-American young person to do it. And I found that very relevant and very propitious that here we have an opportunity in this city to perpetuate and to propagate African-American power. We're 51% of the population here, and it makes sense for us to always be sensitive to how much we have achieved, but how far we need to go in terms of economic parity and the like. And so when I saw the opportunity to have another African-American young man in his 30s to come along and pick up that mantle that Carl Stokes initiated, that became enormously important to me. And so I worked assiduously, ardently, arduously, so much to make sure that Justin Bill became our mayor. And this young man is doing a fabulous job.
That's awesome. How important is it that we have these discussions about Black history in general?
To tell the truth, you know, and I watch you every day and how important you are to the struggle. But it's so important because, let's say, this country was built on the backs of Black people. Mm-hmm. And if you're talking about history, how can you exclude Blacks from that? Because we are part of the pioneering aegis of our city and our country. Were it not for us, this country would not be where it is. It was built on our backs, and inasmuch as we have been a part of that in building it, it's also very important that we continue to contribute, that we continue to make our presence known, and to let everybody know that we're here, we're not going back anywhere else, we're going to stay here, and we're going to work to make sure that this society becomes one that does not judge people by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And we must be a part and parcel of that. So Black history becomes the history of this country. And if you don't recognize and understand the importance and import of Black history, period, you're destined to repeat it. What we are seeing in Ukraine today, what we're seeing around the world today, is that lack of involvement for people, so that dictators and monopolies and the like will take over and do damage to the human spirit. And we witness that every day when we see what is happening in Ukraine out of a dictator that does not recognize the democratic principle of the people, but wants to just have power, raw power.
Yeah. And talking about the African American Cultural Gardens, this really documents history. How important is this garden in that people think about this garden and donate to the cause and remember this?
The Cultural Garden represents what we are. It represents our journey. And every time I go by there and I see the young man who's a member of our church, Mr. Carl Ewan, and his family, so dedicated to making sure that passage from slavery all the way down to freedom, when I go by there, I feel really proud. And I see all the other ethnic groups in there, but we are part of that. And because of this young man who is a part of our fellowship, and because he's given himself so unstintingly and dedicatedly to making sure that happened, I'm really proud, and I am really grateful that we can become a part of that. And I think the Cultural Garden becomes a part of our past, our present, and our future. And if we see that encapsulated in what we see out in the Cultural Garden, then we will be the better off for doing it. But for the grace of God, we could not be here, but for the grace of God, we are here, we are part of this city, and the cultural garden represents our involvement, it represents our participation, and it represents the progress that we have made, and the faith and the opportunity that we have to participate in this. And thank God, this is a gracious moment. This is a great moment to be alive when we see ourselves out there depicted in that amalgamation of ethnicity and the like. It's so important, and we are so grateful that we can go there and witness our past, our present, and look forward to what the good things that we can do in the future.
And you witnessed so much in the past, you are still doing so much in the present, and you are really impacting people for the future. I'm sure you had mentors, and you have plenty of mentees. Talk to me about mentorship and the importance of that.
Mentorship is so important. I just believe that, my life is based upon what Dr. King always said. If you happen to be around when my day comes, don't talk about the multitudinous awards and accolades that I've gotten, including the Nobel Peace Prize. That's not important. The only important thing when I leave this earth, he said, is for the preacher to not talk too long, not to have too much eloquent sayings and the like, but just be specific in saying that Martin Luther King tried to help somebody as he passed along. And that has become my modus operandi. You're not really helping anything when you help yourself. You can only get what you yourself gives you, but when you expand and mentor young people, I think every successful African American is obligated to look back and bring some young person along with him. So I say that, if you call yourself a leader and you're out leading somebody, nobody's following you, you're just taking a long walk. It's only when you are able to have folk walking behind you and coalescing with you that you become significant to the welfare of society. So every successful African American should reach back and make sure that he has a young man or a young woman that he is mentoring and making sure that they will exceed what he has done. Not just arrive where we are, but to go farther than that. And that becomes so supremely important. So we're obligated. I think it's imperative for us not just to arrive and not bring someone along with us. It's very important that you have a young man and a young woman following you, and that becomes important and significant.
Yeah, you're talking good, sir. I like that. You're talking good. So last question here. Advice for the next generation, individuals coming up, change makers that want to make a difference, how you've made a difference.
I would say to every young man of African descent, every young woman, to make sure that you become dedicated to something bigger than yourself. As I said, when you are really wrapped up in yourself, you can only accomplish what self can do. But if you become a part of a universal kind of basis of faith that looks forward to the future and understanding that it's important, as Dr. King said, not just for one of us to succeed. When one of us does not succeed, that means none of us succeed. So we only succeed when we go together. And we must always understand love is the motive. It is the primary need of this world and this country today. Martin always said that we need to make sure that we love people, that we are embraced with love. So I think we can win this fight if we are embracing the love of bringing folks in and not shutting people out, of making sure that we can help people instead of pushing them back, and to always know that together we go forward, and when we are divided, we go backward. And it's so important for us to always know that we should not give up. Don't quit. The struggle continues, and the oppressor is never going to give in to the oppressed. Never has and never will. Frederick Douglass, you have to keep moving, keep going. Don't let anybody make you think that you're not significant, you're not important, you don't have something to contribute. Make sure that you know who you are, you know whose you are, and you will never give up. Keep going forward.
Great words, wise words. Reverend E.T. Caviness, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That has been another episode of the Sankofa series. You can watch every single episode on YouTube. We will catch you for the next episode.
Hello, I'm Beverly Lloyd, board member and Juneteenth chair for the Association of African American Cultural Gardens. And we are bringing you Do You Know? We like to highlight leaders in the community, both in person and virtually. So let's take off right now with a wonderful individual and see if you do know. This individual is an American attorney and jurist who has served as a federal judge on the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit since 2021. Former federal public defender nominated by President Joe Biden to become an associate justice on the Supreme Court. She is the first Black woman to be nominated for a seat on the High Court. This 51-year-old Harvard graduate would be the first Black woman on the Supreme Court if approved. If you guessed Ketanji Jackson Brown, Judge Ketanji Jackson Brown, then you do know.
Hi, my name is Levita Ewing, board member for the Association of African American Cultural Gardens. The mission of the association is to educate regarding the African American experience and to complete the monument for the African American garden. Our Sankofa series represents our dedication to bring to you the history and amazing journey of African Americans in this great city. Our garden represents a journey, starting with the door of no return to the resilience of our ancestors and family to make a difference in this country. The water feature gives us hope and joy for our future generations, knowing you can accomplish anything with dedication and hard work, regardless of the migratory challenges. Our goal is to break ground this year to complete the garden, but we need your help to get to the finish line. Please make your tax-deductible donation by going to AAACG.org or mail your check to P.O. Box 20237, Cleveland, Ohio, 44120. Thank you.